Flu. Also called influenza. A common viral infection that can be deadly, especially in high-risk groups. The flu attacks the lungs, nose, and throat. Young children, older adults, pregnant women, and people with chronic disease or weak immune systems are at high risk. Symptoms include fever, chills, muscle aches, cough, congestion, runny nose, headaches and fatigue. Flu is primarily treated with rest and fluid intake to allow the body to fight the infection on its own. Paracetamol may help cure the symptoms, but NSAIDs should be avoided. An annual vaccine can help prevent the flu and limit its complications. Influenza is a viral infection that attacks your respiratory system, your nose, throat, and lungs. Influenza is commonly called the flu, but it's not the same as stomach flu viruses that cause diarrhea and vomiting. For most people, influenza resolves on its own. Usually self-diagnosable. Symptoms include fever, chills, muscle aches, cough, congestion, runny nose, headaches and fatigue. People may experience pain areas, in the muscles. Cough, can be dry or with phlegm. Whole body, chills, dehydration, fatigue, fever, flushing, loss of appetite, body ache, or sweating. Nasal, congestion, runny nose, or sneezing. Also common, chest pressure, head congestion, headache, nausea, shortness of breath, sore throat, or swollen lymph nodes. Treatment consists of fluids and activity modifications. Flu is primarily treated with rest and fluid intake to allow the body to fight the infection on its own. Paracetamol may help cure the symptoms, but NSAIDs should be avoided. An annual vaccine can help prevent the flu and limit its complications. What causes the flu? The flu is caused by influenza viruses that infect the nose, throat, and lungs. These viruses spread when people with flu cough, sneeze, or talk, sending droplets with the virus into the air and potentially into the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. Another key difference between influenza A and B? While influenza B viruses are typically less common than influenza A viruses, influenza B infections can be more severe in children, and can lead to complications that require hospitalization or death. Influenza A is a highly contagious respiratory illness. It's quite different from the common cold, which is less severe. Colds can be caused by any one of around 200 viruses. Influenza is also caused by a virus, but it's not normally dangerous if you're healthy. Influenza A viruses are the only influenza viruses known to cause flu pandemics, i.e., global epidemics of flu disease. A pandemic can occur when a new and very different influenza A virus emerges that both infects people and has the ability to spread efficiently between people. How long is the flu contagious? When flu spreads, people with flu are most contagious in the first 3 to 4 days after their illness begins. Most healthy adults may be able to infect others beginning 1 day before symptoms develop and up to 5 to 7 days after becoming sick. Adults are most contagious with the flu from 24 hours before symptoms start to 3 to 5 days afterward. Children can spread the virus for longer, up to 10 days, and sometimes even beyond that. People who have serious immune system problems can spread influenza for weeks, or even months, after they get it. Is Tamiflu worth taking? If you're in good health and come down with the flu, you don't necessarily need Tamiflu or another antiviral medication, because you'll most likely get better on your own within 1 to 2 weeks using self-care strategies, such as resting, getting plenty of fluids, and taking over-the-counter pain relievers for fever. What are the stages of flu? A bout of the flu typically follows this pattern: days 1 to 3, sudden appearance of fever, headache, muscle pain and weakness, dry cough, sore throat and sometimes a stuffy nose. Day 4, fever and muscle aches decrease. Hoarse, dry or sore throat, cough and possible mild chest discomfort become more noticeable. What is difference between flu A and flu B? Strains of influenza B are exclusively contracted by humans, while influenza A can be carried, and spread, by animals. However, Both strains are transmitted mainly by respiratory droplets from coughing and contact with an infected person. Will influenza A go away on its own? If you have influenza, you can expect the illness to go away on its own in about 7 to 10 days. In the meantime, you can take steps to feel better, get extra rest. How can I get over the flu faster? Give these a try today. Stay home and get plenty of rest. Mind your flu manners. Drink plenty of fluids. Make sure you get more liquids. Treat aches and fever. Got fever? Take care of your cough. Over-the-counter treatments can calm your hack. Sit in a steamy bathroom. Run the humidifier. Try a lozenge. Get salty. Nationally, influenza A, H1N1, PDM09 viruses are now the most commonly reported influenza viruses this season. Reporting of genetic and antigenic characterization and antiviral susceptibility of influenza viruses has been stopped and will resume with the 2020 to 2021 season. The H, hemagglutinin, and the N, neuraminidase, are both proteins that are found on the outer shell or envelope of the virus. Different viruses have different hemagglutinin and neuraminidase proteins. What bacteria causes influenza? Influenza is a major cause of epidemic and pandemic infection. Bacterial co/secondary infection further increases morbidity and mortality of influenza infection, with Streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenza, and Staphylococcus aureus reported as the most common causes. Why does influenza mutate? Influenza viruses constantly change through a process called antigenic drift. This is the random accumulation of mutations in the hemagglutinin, Ha, and to a lesser extent neuraminidase, Na, genes, recognized by the immune system. It is most pronounced in influenza A viruses. How long should you stay home with the flu? Individuals with suspected or confirmed flu, who do not have a fever, should stay home from work at least 4 to 5 days after the onset of symptoms. Persons with the flu are most contagious during the first 3 days of their illness. Will you get the flu if you are exposed? Although you were exposed to flu, you do not have any symptoms. Symptoms usually start within 1 to 4 days of close contact with another person with flu. 7 days is an outer limit. Since 7 days have passed, you should be safe and not get the flu from this exposure. Does Lysol kill flu? Spray disinfectants, like Lysol disinfecting spray, kill up to 99.9% of fungi, viruses, and bacteria. Simply spray the possibly infected areas, like doorknobs and furniture, and let the spray do its work, making for easy cleaning. Why is Tamiflu bad? Tamiflu can cause vomiting, nausea, and even hallucinations. But experts say it's effective in reducing flu symptoms and is worth the side effects. Sometimes a cure is worth the side effects. The flu antiviral Tamiflu might be a good example. How long is flu contagious with Tamiflu? About a week. Typically, you're contagious from 1 day before you have any symptoms. You stay that way for 5 to 7 days after you start feeling sick. The virus can be spread until symptoms disappear. Are you still contagious after Tamiflu? No, you can still make other people sick even if you're taking antiviral medications that treat the flu. The CDC recommends 4 FDA-approved drugs to treat the flu: baloxavir marboxil, Xofluza, oseltamivir, Tamiflu, peramivir, rapivab, and zanamivir, Relenza. How long should my child stay home with the flu? Children with the flu should stay home from school and childcare until they feel better. They should only go back when they have been fever-free for at least 24 hours without using a fever-reducing medicine. Some kids need to stay home longer. What does Tamiflu do to the body? Tamiflu, oseltamivir phosphate, is an antiviral drug. It works by attacking the flu virus to keep it from multiplying in your body and by reducing the symptoms of the flu. Tamiflu can sometimes keep you from getting the flu if you take it before you get sick. What if you take Tamiflu and don't have the flu? Chittick says there is no benefit to taking Tamiflu if you don't have influenza. He explained taking antibiotics or antiviral drugs unnecessarily could lead to bacteria and viruses becoming more resistant. What is the best over-the-counter medicine for the flu? The best overall flu medicine would be NyQuil and DayQuil Severe Combo Caplets. This combo pack contains ingredients that target multiple symptoms of fever, pain, and cough. The DayQuil capsule contains a powerful expectorant ingredient that can loosen up your mucus to decrease cough and congestion. When should you go to ER for flu? When the flu requires emergency medical care. Although the ER should only be utilized by those who are very sick, there are severe flu symptoms that may warrant a trip to the ER. If you're in a high-risk group and are experiencing symptoms like fever, chills or body aches, seek medical care immediately. Can I have the flu without a fever? A fever is part of the immune system's response to an infection and is a typical flu symptom. However, it is possible for the flu to occur without a fever. In mild cases of the flu, the body may be able to fight off the influenza virus without raising its temperature. How is flu B treated? Usually, you'll need nothing more than bed rest and plenty of fluids to treat the flu. But if you have severe infection or are at higher risk for complications, your doctor may prescribe an antiviral medication, such as oseltamivir, Tamiflu, zanamivir, Relenza, Peramivir, Rapivab, or Baloxavir, Cofluza. What flu strain is going around 2020? Flu activity is currently being caused mostly by influenza B/Victoria viruses, followed by H1N1 viruses and H3N2 viruses. It is unusual for there to be this much influenza B activity at this time of year. Can you get over the flu without going to the doctor? Most people who have the flu, influenza, have a mild illness and don't need to see a doctor. Common flu signs and symptoms include fever above 100 F, 38 C, though not everyone with the flu has a fever. Does the flu virus die? It's always happy hour somewhere for a virus, although their ability to infect us changes throughout the year. Strictly speaking, viruses can't die off as they're just inanimate strips of genetic material plus other molecules.